Good afternoon and welcome to Politics in the Pulpit here on your hometown station, KHTS AM 1220 and 98.1 FM. It is your holy host, back for another opportunity to talk about the two things that nobody else wants to talk about, politics and religion, and yes, they do indeed mix. We are 6 days, folks, from one of the most consequential elections of our history. Yeah, I had to get on the bandwagon and say all the hyperbolic stuff that everybody else is saying about this consequential election. The fact of the matter is they're all consequential in their own way, but this one is definitely going to be very, very important. And so I'm going to ask you a quick question. Have you gone out to vote? I'm listening. I'm going to ask our board operator, Jen, here, who is seated here with a Halloween-themed sweater. Yeah. Dancing skeletons, which of course was macabre and frightening as she walked in.
Yes, that was the goal. That's
Jen,
about as spooky as I get.
Obviously, Jen, your husband does radio. I'm assuming he also does politics and talks about the issues of the day. Let me ask you the question. You have an independent thinking mind. You're not necessarily on one side of one political aisle. Mm-hmm. Have you and your husband voted?
No, I prefer to wait. I don't know what it is.
You're a day of?
I prefer day of. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like the feeling of mailing it in. I kind of like the excitement and the chaos, really, if you will, of waiting till the day of. I remember that when I was a young lady.
And then Facebooking your picture with "I voted" sticker.
I won't do that. I'll save you from that.
Okay.
But no, it's as crazy as this election is. I do feel that there's a little bit of excitement around an election in general, especially obviously one this large. So I think there's something to be said of taking that day, taking the day off of work or a half day and making an event out of it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I shared your sentiments the last 4 years ago, mm-hmm. and I have probably before that as well. And I would encourage folks to go out even on the day of. But I think Republicans this year have really embraced this whole early voting thing, and I've always been skeptical of it. But this year, I just fully embraced it.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at all the numbers across the states that have early voting, and Republicans are way ahead of where they were in 2020, definitely way ahead of 2016. Democrats still have a lead. But it's not as insurmountable as it once was. Yeah. But anyway, Jen, thanks for contributing to that.
Sure.
Because obviously you're just the average person out there, and we want to know what the average person is doing. And you're waiting for the day of, and a lot of you folks listening out there are probably doing the same. So in just a few moments, we're going to have Eric Early. He's going to call in here, and he is, of course, attorney, a business owner, radio host in his own right, and has been a candidate for multiple offices here in California. And of course, he was running for Senate a few months ago when Steve Garvey ruined all of that. And so I shouldn't say that. Please go vote for Steve Garvey if you're in California. Let me just also mention, if I could just throw a shameless plug out there for the show. Politics in the Pulpit is on Rumble if you would like to listen to the shows without interruption, no commercials. You can go on Rumble. If you don't have a Rumble account, please get a Rumble account and then go to Politics in the Pulpit. You'll see my kisser there, and then like that, and then start sharing if you would. We're also on YouTube. We're going to be starting a YouTube page very, very soon here, and dealing with that. Also, I have a friend in Missouri that I've been talking about the last couple of weeks. He has a Give, Send, Go called Home for the Holiday. That's holiday with double L, HOLLIDAY. Tim has been in live radio, folks. We know that I know that Tim has been in a wheelchair now for a great many years, and he needs a home that is a little more conducive for his situation. And so if you can give, send, go through Home for the Holiday, I think that would be really gracious of you if you're able to do that. So if you're able to, I appreciate that very much. I just got a note here that our guest Eric Early will be will be delayed by about 15 minutes, which of course happens occasionally. And he's on a cell phone, and I'm really hoping that, that nothing is going to happen while he's on the cell phone. So let me also tell you about a couple other things that are happening here locally this coming Sunday at Freedom's Way Baptist Church, which of course is the church that yours truly pastors. We have something called Prayer Policy and Petition Sunday. You say, what in the world is that called? Prayer Policy and Petition Sunday. Other than really fancy alliteration, this is a Sunday that we are going to invite candidates who are not only voting vying to be on city council, on school board, for state senate, and so on and so forth, but also folks who are currently looking to get back on those various places, if you will. And so we've got several candidates coming this coming Sunday. I encourage you to come out for those of you who can. And what we're going to do is we're going to preach to and pray for those candidates. We're not necessarily endorsing candidates. We're just going to preach to and pray for. And by the way, both sides are completely welcome. Do you have something to say to me, Jen?
No, I was just curious about the event. You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask if you would had plans to kind of interview them or give them an opportunity to talk to the congregation.
No, most of them have actually have come through the congregation and have introduced themselves. Most of the congregation has already voted, unlike you, Jen. And so,
that's no fun.
I know they've already voted.
Put the pressure on yourself.
But there's about 7 candidates that I believe are going to be attending, and that's from water board all the way up to Congress.
Oh, wow.
And so, looking forward to the opportunity to preach to them as well as pray over them. And not all of them share my faith value, but at the same time, that really doesn't matter because obviously those that are coming best represent my political values. And so looking forward to having them come. This is something that a lot of churches shy from because they think of the notion that their 501c3 is going to be expunged. Of course, I've been one of those pastors of the last 22 years that really doesn't care about stuff like that. Now, I don't endorse anybody over the from the pulpit. But if you were to ask me, in the church parking lot, who are you voting for, Pastor, I'm going to tell you exactly who I'm voting for.
Yeah, but that's nice that you include maybe someone that you might not necessarily vote for or,
We've had folks that are Democrat that have come through.
Yeah.
And we're a church, so they're
Of
welcome.
course.
They're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
But most of the Democrats don't want to come through, mainly because they think I have a built-in bias, which, to be honest with you, I do. But as I've done on this radio show for the last 3 years, I've had the opposite side come on.
Yeah.
And I've had atheists come on. I've had Democratic individuals that are seeking city council and other elected offices. And I've had them come on, and we've had good, cordial discussions.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, really, the whole point of loving each other and treating each other properly has nothing to do with how one votes or one way or the other. And certainly that's not what we're seeing in television and the news.
No, we've been referred to as garbage.
Yeah. So it's nice that you're putting yourself out there and, choosing to include everyone no matter how they vote, which is silly that that's even a topic.
It's unfortunate that we even have to talk about that, but yes. And yes, and may I also say that some churches, even of my stripe, have become so partisan that, they would only invite one side. Again, I do have a partisan leaning. There's
Sure.
no doubt about that.
That's okay. You're allowed to feel that way.
But at the same time, I think it's important that everyone feel welcome. And nobody in my congregation, if we had like George Whitesides or one of these other guys that are running from the other side of the political spectrum attend, I don't think anybody, at least I hope nobody in our church would, want to start an argument with them, especially if they just wanted to come and worship. Even if they didn't believe like we did, the services should be respectful.
Yeah. That's not the time or place.
It shouldn't be, and I've already warned our folks about that. Another quick shameless plug here as we're waiting, of course, patiently for Mr. Eric Early. We have a concert coming up on December 7th. That's Sunday, December 7th at 4 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. That is going to be with the SCV Concert Band. We have one of our church members that are part of the concert band, and we've had them at our church now several years. And they're usually a staple for our red, white, and blue weekend, where we have a patriotic concert prior to that particular Sunday. But that, again, is Sunday, December 7th, and it will all be Christmas-themed, both sacred as well as secular Christmas music on that day. And that's about a 25, 30-piece band. So if you've not heard them before, they've been featured here in Santa Clarita for a great many years. Obviously, most of the members of the band live here locally. And the last time I think they played here on a big scale, if I'm not mistaken, was right down the street here from KHTS at the, I forget what it is down here. But anyway, it was a great concert that featured Henry Mancini music and a bunch of other things. And so encourage you folks to come on out to that. Again, that's a free event. We will be taking an offering for the Santa Clarita Valley Concert Band itself. But it's a free event. You don't necessarily have to feel compelled to give if you don't want to do so. So again, that's December 7th, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all Christmas themed. Well, let me just set up a few things here as we wait for Eric to call in. Obviously, we are just 6 days away from one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime. And I had mentioned on Sunday during my election sermon that some 35 million Christians, evangelical Christians, are going to sit this election out. And I just find it appalling that Christians who should know better, should understand their Bibles, you'd think they'd understand their Bibles, and you would also assume sit under pastors that would encourage them to vote, not necessarily tell them who to vote for, but encourage them to vote, and encourage that civic responsibility to be engaged in the direction of the country every 4, 2, and 6 years. I'm just amazed, as a pastor, that 35 million evangelicals are going to choose to sit out this election. And by the way, not just this election, about the same number sat out 2020 as well. And it is my opinion that if you are going to sit out the election, then you really have no right to complain about who is the president, who's the congressman, who's the senator, who are your local representatives. Because you folks should be an informed group of people, not only from your own studies and your own understanding of how politics works, but of course, hopefully you're sitting under a pastor that is encouraging you to do that. But 35 million, that is a huge number. Jen, can you imagine 35 million people willfully just saying, I'm not voting at all?
Well, at all, right. And I was thinking to myself, okay, well, I would love to know what the number is for those who are not interested in religion in any capacity, right?
Yet I'm just specifically referring to evangelicals.
Yeah.
Self-professed evangelicals, and that's 35 million that are willfully going to sit it out.
So do we feel like maybe they're almost, and paralyzed sounds a little dramatic, but they feel maybe lost or like, there's so much that's going sideways that what is my one vote going to do? And certainly we've been taught since we turned 18, before we turned 18, that everyone's vote counts. But somewhere along the line, I feel like that's been lost. And I don't know if it's specifically because of this election, these two that are involved in this election. They are certainly polarizing, to say the least.
Different.
So maybe it's that. Maybe it's because they are so different, if you will, that it's kind of it's almost turning people off, maybe, or maybe a little frightening.
Well, I would be inclined to believe that if the numbers in 2020 and the numbers in 2016 were also a little less. But the fact of the matter is, there seems to be, and I'm going back to a poll I saw from 2012, which was Mitt Romney, who is LDS, and Barack Obama, who professed to be a Christian. I believe there was about 25 million to 30 million that also sat out that election as well, which is, again, one of those things where I just scratch my wooden head saying to myself, how can you live in a country that affords you the opportunity to cast that vote, where you have the opportunity to really drive the direction of the country and you willfully don't do that, and then you complain about who's in
Right.
the White House.
Can we say, is it safe to assume that somewhere the breakdown is happening in a church on a Sunday, that maybe whatever pastor is kind of conducting the mass is not making that clear? Is not expressing that.
I would say that is probably 90% of it.
Yeah.
Because the fact of the matter is, Jen, within the evangelical community, we're not a monolith, which is interesting because most people think, well, we're a monolith when it comes to everything. No, that's not true. We're only monolithic on certain things, certain fundamental doctrines, if you will. But when it comes to voting, some people don't even want politics, even though there's no way I can divorce politics from my biblical understanding of things. Whereas some pastors, some ministers completely see a divorce between the two. Right. I just don't. In fact, real quickly here before we go to the break, I had just received a text right before the show from a lady that just visited a local church here, a very large local church, and was just encouraging that minister to be a little more bold and assertive about the voting process. And the text that I got back was basically this pastor is apathetic towards it, doesn't really care. And I think, this is just my surmising, Jen, I think that is probably what's happening across the board with some pastors, especially pastors in their 60s, mid-50s, early 60s, where they're just not worried.
That's a shame because they are a group of leaders. They are our leaders, and the people, I don't want to say expect, but really kind of deserve at least a little bit of guidance. That's why they're going there. That's what they're looking for. They don't have to follow that, certainly, but they're looking for that guidance, and they're not receiving it always.
And not everybody follows my opinion, and that's totally fine as well. But listen.
Kids included. Huh?
Exactly. Thanks for listening to Politics in the Pulpit. We'll be back here in just a minute. Hopefully Eric Early will be on the line with us, and we'll be back in just a minute on your... Right, we're back here, and we are back not only with Politics in the Pulpit and Pastor Jerry Cook, we are back with Eric Early, who I believe is at a theme park.
Yeah, I am at Disneyland right now, and I apologize for being a little late. We just got off the Cars ride, my wife and I.
Your wife and I?
What's that?
Just you and your wife went to Disneyland?
That's true. That is correct. My grandchildren are very young, so they're a little young for it right now. My wife and I have always loved coming here.
Well, I am so glad that you're enjoying yourself there at Disneyland. Well, Eric, thanks for calling in today, and we'll try to keep it brief here so you can get back to enjoying the happiest place on earth and one of the most expensive places on earth. But Eric Early, of course, is a business owner, he's an attorney, he's a radio host, and, of course, candidate here in the state of California. And, of course, someone that I would have preferred to cast a vote for Senate if it wasn't for Steve Garvey. But again, let me just tell folks out there, please vote for Steve Garvey. Let's start with something that just broke this morning, Eric. The Supreme Court sided with the state of Virginia and Governor Glenn Youngkin in encouraging the illegals, to keep the illegals, off the voter rolls. First of all, Eric, why in the world is the Department of Justice and the Biden administration interested, this is somewhat how ironic that I would ask this, why would they be interested in keeping illegals on the voter rolls? And why did Governor Youngkin and the state of Virginia even have to go to the Supreme Court and make this appeal in the first place?
Well, it was clearly a great ruling by the Supreme Court this morning, getting illegals off the voter rolls in the state of Virginia, and it is really crazy that Governor Youngkin had to go this far to do it. But the lower court in Virginia ruled that they could stay on the voter rolls. It was a Obama judge. There's a surprise when Governor Youngkin tried to get him off the rolls, an Obama judge denied it in the federal court there in Virginia. So several red state attorneys general brought an immediate emergency action to the U.S. Supreme Court. Thankfully, the U.S. Supreme Court threw out the ruling of the lower court, the Obama judge. But You're right. The case was originally brought by the Department of Justice to keep these people on the voter rolls, and it's anybody's guess why they would do that. But so many of us are guessing why. They seem to every time there's a fight to keep illegal immigrants from voting, up comes the far left, all the way up to the Department of Justice, fighting to protect them. It's just nutty times we're living in right now.
If the left wants to quell any kind of questioning of the legitimacy of next week's election, you would think they would try to make sure they would accommodate Governor Youngkin's request here to keep these illegals off of the voter rolls. And by the way, this is not just happening in Virginia, but it's happening across several other states as well, where the Department of Justice is challenging the governor and the states in purging their voter rolls, which again, I was under this weird assumption, Eric, that only those that are legally in the country or born here can vote. Is that still not the law of the land?
It is a strange assumption, isn't it, Jerry, in this day and age? One would think, the people, us conservatives, we're generally logical people. We're generally reasonable people. We want to follow the law. We want to follow the Constitution. And it's totally unconstitutional for illegal immigrants, non-American citizens, to vote in any election in this country. But we see what's happening. We see this far-left, socialist, Marxist takeover going on, frankly, and they will come up with every reason, rationale in the books to fight things that are non-constitutional, from our First Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights, our religious freedoms, and they're doing the same thing with this illegal voting. And to the extent they have the 95% of the media on their side, which is what they do have, they managed to get away with it. But we're starting to see irregularities pop up in various parts of the country, not only with illegal voting, but in other things that are starting to pop up, and it's tremendously concerning. I'm sure you heard about what popped up on the Formula One race on ABC the other day.
Oh, you mean the fact that Kamala Harris won the race in Pennsylvania by 5% of the vote?
Yeah. I don't know if you spoke about that today yet, but that's what happened.
I was actually going to bring that up, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, Formula One race. It was broadcast by ABC on Sunday afternoon. I was actually watching the race, but I wasn't keeping that close attention to it at that point. Now it's all over X, and it's probably not on most of the mainstream media. ABC posts the results of the presidential election between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania last Sunday. And they claim that Kamala Harris won the election by 5% of the vote, and they had the exact vote totals on there. And naturally, people like me are saying, wait a second, how could that possibly happen, that they already have the final calculation of the Pennsylvania vote, which so many people are saying whoever wins Pennsylvania wins the presidency?
Well, all I can say is this, back to my first point about the illegal immigrants voting. If they want to quell any questioning of the legitimacy of this Tuesday's election, then these things from ABC and the Cryons running Harris winning by 5% is definitely not helping the matter. Let's turn our attention to what I like to call Garbage Gate or Trash Gate. Yep. I don't know if you saw the Madison Square Garden rally on Sunday, which of course was attended by well over 20,000 people. I think there was about 30,000 people outside watching on these big old jumbotrons. But there was this comedian that I frankly had never heard ever of, by the name of Tony Hinchcliffe, who had basically, I guess, kind of took a playbook out of the old Don Rickles playbook and just kind of criticized everybody, which was fine. But he mentioned, Puerto Rico is a giant island of trash, and the Trump administration came out and basically said, "Listen," the Trump team came out and said this was a bad joke and it just wasn't all that funny. But then President Biden yesterday went on CNN, or an affiliate of CNN, and I'm hoping you can hear this. Eric, but here is what President Biden said about Trump supporters.
Donald Trump has no character. He doesn't give a damn about the Latino community. He's failed businessman. He only cares about the billionaire friends he has and accumulating wealth for those at the top. He says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Give me a break. He wants to do away with the birthright citizenship. Who the hell has said that in the last 100 years? And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable.
Okay,
it's un-American.
so here's
Totally
Biden
contrary to everything we've done.
goes on this show and basically says all Trump supporters are garbage. The White House came out and said, well, the apostrophe on supporters is in the wrong place. And he was only referring to the comedian Tony Hinchcliffe and his comment from Sunday night. Do you think that this comment by Biden is going to be essentially the same type of damage that happened in 2016 when Hillary Clinton called a bunch of us a basket of deplorables? What say you, Eric?
Well, I do think it's going to be the same type of damage. I think it'll be more damaging, frankly, to Biden and Harris. I saw virtually the entire rally at Madison Square Garden. I watched it. It was incredible. I didn't see this comedian, but from what I hear, that even that joke, most people didn't even think was funny when he said it. Trump was incredible. The lead up, Tucker Carlson, so many greats speaking before, Elon, et cetera. Trump's wife, Melania, incredible. And Trump was incredible. It was a joyous time. It was a joyous festival and a joyous, great rally. And then comes this nut job, this president. And that's what he said. I had heard that interview before. And yes, he referred to all of us Trump supporters as garbage. And he's a sick man. And, he hates Republicans. And in particular, he hates MAGA Republicans. And I'm a proud MAGA Republican. And I never see him come out and support American patriots and people who love our country, much less American citizens. I never see him do it. But he's more than happy to take half the country, maybe more than half the country, tens of millions of Americans, and call us garbage. And this is what we're living through. And Kamala Harris feels exactly the same way. And this is what we're up against. These people, we have to win this election. This is the most important election of my lifetime, probably your lifetime too, Jerry. You've been a young man. And we got to win this thing because this Kamala Harris, they have just opened the doors wide to a Marxist takeover of this country.
Well, let's turn our attention real quickly to California politics. You're at Disneyland right now with your wife, enjoying yourself with Mickey Mouse and Goofy. I'm just wondering if you can find Steve Garvey there. Is he anywhere at Disneyland?
Listen, as you know, I ran against Steve Garvey in the primary. I was the President Trump supporter. I've been an open Trump supporter for a number of years now, going back to when I ran against that psychotic liar Schiff for Congress when he was going through the Russia hoax stuff. Garvey was supported by the moderates who run our California Republican Party, who just freak out every time I say I support Donald Trump. And then the far left media, led by this outfit called Politico, did everything they could to keep me off the debate stage, even though at that point I was polling right up there. I was right behind Garvey in the polls. There were 30 people in the race that time. I was number 5. Politico only let the first 4 up on the debate stage, and after the other ones being Schiff, Katie Porter, and Barbara Lee. And after that, the media ignored my existence. But Garvey, listen, everybody should vote for Garvey, but Garvey has been a ghost the entire time. And yes, if I see him here, there'll be somebody walking around in a ghost outfit, and that'll be Garvey. Nobody knows what he stands for. He's never come out and supported Trump. He is clearly a moderate rhino kind of Republican. And as I was saying before the primary, and I still say it to this day, listen, nobody expects a Republican to win a statewide race these days in California unless they're a major celebrity, not a minor one like Garvey. And so if we're going to go down, let's at least go down fighting instead of like a bunch of dogs. And Garvey is going down like a dog, and I would have taken it to Schiff every day of the week. Adam Schiff can't stand me. I mean, I could show you commercials from my race that he ran against me when we were running for Congress. The guy can't stand me, and I frankly don't like him, let's say.
I can tell you one place that Steve Garvey wasn't. He wasn't at the World Series last night between the Dodgers and the Yankees.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he would have helped that situation out at all. But yeah, that was a little embarrassing for the Dodgers last night. Real quickly, I know you're wanting to enjoy yourself there. What's the next ride, by the way, that you guys are going to go on?
Well, we want to do Haunted Mansion for sure. You know, we're in California Adventure right now. We want to do Haunted Mansion. Will be probably next one, Indiana Jones, and we got a couple others up our sleeves. But I'm very happy to report that the wait for the Cars ride was much shorter than expected so far. It's not nearly as crowded as I thought it would be here today, the day before Halloween.
So it was only 2.5 hour wait as opposed to a 4 hour wait?
No, this one they said 45 minutes going on the line, so I figured I was going to be able to call you while I was waiting online. And 20 minutes in or so, we're getting on the car, so it was pretty cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I wanted to quickly talk about another friend of yours, affectionately, of course, the DA's race here in Los Angeles County. It looks as if Nathan Hochman is going to rout George Gascon, and I pray and hope that is the case. But let's say that Hochman does win, and it's a decisive win, and Prop 36 gets passed, which seems it's going to get passed by at least 2/3 majority. What do you think should be Hochman's first order of business when he steps into that DA's role?
Well, first of all, I do want Hochman to beat Gascon, but let's just say I'm not a big fan of Nathan Hochman. I don't really believe a word he says, and I could give specifics as to why, specific examples, but nonetheless, when you're dealing with two not good people, I'll take him. I think he's the lesser of the two evils, but I don't know yet because I don't believe him. But what I think he should do first day in office is he should throw out every one of these terrible directives that Gascon instituted the minute he got into office, which made it so much harder for victims to get justice against those who had committed crimes against them and their family members. He should immediately allow the deputy DAs to again fight when a violent criminal is coming up for parole. Let the deputy DAs and go in there and fight for the family members to prevent the parole from happening. Gascon wiped that out, so the family members in the last few years haven't been able to go in there with a deputy DA to fight the people behind bars. I think Hochman should do whatever he can to prevent bail from being set for violent criminals. And I think he better follow the dictates of Proposition 36, assuming that does get voted in, and it looks like it will, to start cracking down on these shoplifters and these other felons that Proposition 47, which 36 is seeking to repeal in part, is prevented people from doing, because we have to protect our business owners, we have to protect the society, frankly, and we have to finally have accountability again for these criminals. Because, you know, one thing I've been saying, I'm not the only one for the longest time, you know, they may be criminals, but a lot of them aren't stupid, and they know that if they can walk into a Nike or a Nordstrom's or a Macy's or any store you think of and take whatever they want up to $9.50 and nothing happens to them, well, guess what? They're going to keep doing it. So we need accountability again.
Eric Early, thank you so much for calling in today at Politics in the Pulpit. We want you to resume your time with your wife there on the happiest place on earth, Disneyland, and maybe send me a picture or something of the Haunted Mansion when you guys get in line. Our final segment on Politics in the Pulpit here on your hometown station. Real quickly, just a quick shameless plug. Politics in the Pulpit on Rumble. If you want to listen to the shows, we've got about 6 or 7 already posted. Today's will be posted either the end of today or by tomorrow. Again, those are all commercial free, and encourage you to go to Politics in the Pulpit on Rumble. You'll see my kisser like that, slam that, and share it out to a bunch of folks. Well, we're going to do something today on Politics in the Pulpit that I don't normally do. I am not the biggest sports aficionado. I do have a son who is 13 who is probably going to be the next Messi for the soccer world as soon as he gets out of high school. In fact, he's actually quite a talented young man. He can play soccer, he can play baseball, he can play basketball. Frankly, anything. He's a pretty talented kid. He doesn't get that from me. And I don't normally use sports analogies from the pulpit very often. My pastor, Pastor Jerry Mitchell from Norwalk, California, he was the epitome of the Sports Illustration. He could do it all the time. Whereas I don't. But I do know from the congregation that I pastor, as well as the gentleman that's sitting right across from me, our board operator, Andrew Delgado, he is displaying proudly a Dodgers jersey. And Andrew, how do you feel after last night's whooping?
A little rough. Actually, not as not as bad as I would think, or you would think that I would feel, because the Dodgers had a 3-0 game advantage. So I wasn't on the edge of my seat, or praying for a win.
Well, they definitely have a chance tonight
yes.
to still take the World Series.
Yes, they do. So, yes, they were up 3-0. So with 4 games remaining, all they have to do to win the World Series is win one of those 4. They lost yesterday, but tonight they are back in New York for the final game. Just over 2 hours, actually, at 5:08.
And obviously, Freddie had a home run hit the other night for the Dodgers.
Yes,
and it was a great hit. I mean, you can tell when that ball gets hit, it has a distinctive sound, right?
A very distinctive sound right away, and you can tell by the body language of the hitter and also the players on defense, if they even go and turn around, that it's out of here. And that was a mirrored image of the Kirk Gibson home run from back in the 80s. Oddly enough, it was 2 minutes away from the exact time that Kirk Gibson hit it. There were some weird stats.
Almost prophetic.
Yep.
Interesting. So tell me about a little dilemma that happened yesterday. I think it was yesterday, where one of the Dodgers were trying to catch a ball, and,
yes.
and some fans kind of intercepted.
So it was a fly out to the stands, right on the edge of the stands. So Mookie Betts, the right fielder, went over, caught it, amazing catch, stuck his arm up on the wall, actually into the stands, and able to catch it. This happens all the time in baseball, and the rule, it's not even a written rule, the rule is do not interfere with the players, or you will be escorted out. That's on every stadium. But Mookie Betts jumped over, caught it. It was a phenomenal catch, but the fans right there on the edge of the wall grabbed his glove and held him there, and was actually ripping open his glove and trying to get the ball out, trying to dislodge the ball.
And I understand they are not allowed to come back to the game.
They are not. They are actually banned. And this this happened at the beginning, in the first inning of the game. So you're paying, especially where they were sitting, well over, I would say, $2,000 for those tickets, and you're out in the first couple minutes there.
Yeah, well, that's a lesson to be learned by those guys. And obviously, they probably were going to take that ball and put it on eBay or something like that, right? Or maybe put it in their.
They didn't even get it. It ended up going on the field. They didn't even.
And that's the way it should be, right? I mean, obviously, they were totally messing up a whole situation there.
Right, and not just Dodgers, saying this as a Dodger fan. There were plenty of Yankees fans out there that talk sports on the daily, saying this was way out of line. That does not belong in baseball, no matter who team you're rooting for.
And Andrew, who do you think's going to take it tonight?
Well, I have a strong allegiance to the Dodgers.
No. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you can see his wonderful jersey there.
Yes. So the Dodgers actually have a great chance. Like I said yesterday, it was kind of not a giveaway, because obviously no games are given away there, but they were fine with losing. They threw a bullpen game, so none of their starting pitchers went out there, but we're back in the lineup today with a full unit, especially with relievers. So we're looking strong today. Hopefully the Dodgers will pull it out.
All right, from your mouth to God's lips, let's see, or from your
Yes.
lips to God's ears. We'll see how that works. Real quickly, I want to ask you this question. I asked Jen this question. By the way, if you're wondering why Andrew's in here, it's because Jen, our board operator for the first 3/4 of the show, has to go pick up her kids, and Andrew usually comes in for the last 5 to 7 minutes of the show. I asked Jen if she had voted, her and her husband, and they had not voted yet. They were actually going to vote on the day of, next Tuesday. Andrew, have you voted?
I have not, and I did listen. I do listen to the show.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much.
And I agree with Jen. I do like the hoopla of it, the event, because it is an event. It is special. No matter who you vote for, it is special to go up, stand in line, do your duty, get your sticker, you put it on Instagram if that's what you like, but get there and be a part of something, as you should, and you should be a part of it. And it's something kind of, to be proud of, like, yeah, I did it, and it was an event.
It's a civic duty, a civic responsibility, and it's quite a privilege to be able to do that, to be able to have some sort of direction in your country. So what if something happens tragically on Tuesday? Nothing to you, obviously. I mean, what if there's a huge weather event? What if a water main breaks? Is that going to discourage you from going? Because I know that happened in 2020, and it discouraged a bunch of folks from various states on the day of. And I was just wondering is nothing off limits for Andrew Delgado? You're going to go vote on Tuesday.
I'm going to go vote on Tuesday, yeah. Standing in line, if that, an hour or so, whatever it is. Trying to get there early just so I don't have to stand in line that long. But if there's, water main or whatever it is, yes, I will vote and stand in line for it.
Amen to that. Well, thank you for doing that, Andrew, and thanks for stepping in for Jen here towards the end of the show. Next week, Wednesday, obviously that'll be the day after the election. Lord willing, we're going to have several candidates calling in one at a time, one after each other. Patrick Lee Gibson, Suzette Valadares, some of our local folks like Aaron Wilson, Dr. Rakesh Ahuja, and some others, including Congressman Mike Garcia, to kind of update us on the status of their races. We're living in California. That's the dream, obviously. But we count our votes very, very slowly here. And so I don't think we're going to have any conclusive winners or losers unless it's very, very definitive on election night. But usually what happens is people look like they're winning on election night, and then as the counts drip in, and more votes come in and more votes get counted, leads dissipate. And so next week, Wednesday, we should have updates from various races here in California, and looking forward to you guys to come back on and listen in here to your Politics in the Pulpit family here on your hometown station on KHTS. This is Pastor Jerry Cook, your holy host, saying thank you so much for tuning in today. Go out and vote, and have a safe Halloween with the kids tomorrow night. God bless you.